This video reviews periods in U.S. history prior to 1865, illustrating the trend of debt, dollar depreciation, and inflation on the U.S. economy. It also compares the period's similarities to the current economic problems in the United States. During and after the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress was faced with limited authority to finance the new government. So much of its currency, continentals, was printed that it was considered worthless. In 1781, Superintendent of Finance Robert Morris obtained a private charter for a national bank, the Bank of North America. His proposal, with the encouragement of Alexander Hamilton, was for the bank to issue a national currency. It would turn a profit from loans and sale of government bonds. However, the National Bank program failed to succeed, faced with state opposition, a necessary unanimous vote for Articles of Confederation amendments, and a lack of faith in the value of the paper currency. Under the Articles, Congress had no power to provide funding through taxation. The country suffered from high taxes, inflation, and a confusing array of currency. Each of the states printed their own currency, some too much, some too little. Massachusetts' lack of paper money instigated the Shades Rebellion, whereas Rhode Island overprinted money until the value was worthless and scared creditors away. On top of the foreign war debts, the Continental Congress had created more debt through the printing of paper currency and sale of government bonds. The national debt grew from $11 million to $28 million by the end of the Confederation in 1789. During the nation's first administration under George Washington, Secretary of the Treasury Alexander Hamilton outlined a national bank program and a federal tax system to finance the government. The national bank would issue and regulate a national currency backed by government bonds. The federal government would also absorb states' war debts and fund federal debt at face value. Hamilton stated that the payment of the national debt will benefit the country's credit. The Congress finally approved a 20-year charter for the bank. In July 4, 1791, the Bank of the United States stock was established and ushered the country towards financial stability and capitalistic growth. The Congress under President James Madison, however, did not appreciate the benefits of monetary regulation. In 1811, it allowed the charter for a national bank to expire. As a result, the pattern of debt, dollar depreciation, and inflation occurred again. The United States government took out loans in order to fund the War of 1812. State banks participated in loose lending practices and printed more banknotes without enough hard money to back the currency. This caused the depreciation of the currency and inflation of consumer goods. Eventually, the Second Bank of the United States received a charter in 1816. Instead of setting controls over state bank practices, the National Bank and its president joined in extending loans and banknotes to speculators with little down payment. These practices, combined with the fall of cotton prices, resulted in the Panic of 1819. President James Monroe appointed Langdon Sheaves as the second president of the National Bank in 1819. Sheaves applied strict restraints on loans and currency of the state banks. The state banks, however, placed pressure on the citizen debtors. President Andrew Jackson understood that national debt needed to be eliminated and believed that the only true form of money was gold or silver. However, when he vetoed the 1832 National Bank Charter, he failed to recognize the importance of the Bank of the United States. He also did not heed history's lessons. Without strict regulation, the state banks again issued too many loans, currency, and caused inflation. By 1837, the state banks were in debt $170 million. The already depressed economy eventually became the Panic of 1837, when England's poor economy gave it a final nudge. All these historical periods of economic problems are eerily similar to the current situation in the United States. President Barack Obama campaigned in 2008 with a promise to reduce the national debt, which was $10.6 trillion. However, after his 2012 re-election, the debt was over $16 trillion. In 4 years, no federal budget has been passed.
John, nobody is denying that $18 billion is important. And absolutely we need earmark reform. And when I'm president, I will go line by line to make sure that we are not spending money unwisely.
In the August 2012 report, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke stated that the Federal Reserve Bank is continuing its quantitative easing policy, which is to buy financial securities with newly generated currency. Federal Reserve Committee press release stated that they would continue to purchase additional mortgage-backed securities at a pace of $40 billion per month.
Accordingly, the FOMC decided today on new actions, electing to expand its purchases of securities and extend its forward guidance regarding the federal funds rate. Specifically, the committee decided to purchase additional agency mortgage-backed securities, or MBS, at a pace of $40 billion per month. The new MBS purchases, combined with the existing maturity extension program and the continued reinvestment of principal payments from agency debt and agency MBS already on our balance sheet, will result in an increase in our holdings of longer-term securities of about $85 billion each month for the remainder of the year. The program of MBS purchases should increase the downward pressure on long-term interest rates more generally, but also on mortgage rates specifically, which should provide further support for the housing sector by encouraging home purchases and refinancing.
It appears that the government refuses to learn from their history lessons. By continuing to spend and increase the national debt, the government risks losing that all-important credit Alexander Hamilton talked about. The larger the debt grows, so does the doubt in investors over the ability of the country to pay a return on investments. Federal easing is just pumping quote-unquote digital money into the economy, which history shows will result in depreciation of the dollar and inflation in the economy. Since the government refuses to learn from the past, it is necessary for the people to use these lessons themselves and prepare for the future. In each of the historical periods mentioned in this video, the people were affected the most by the constraints that ultimately will occur either through the inflation of consumer goods or the constriction of loans. It may be time for citizens to take on Andrew Jackson's view and invest in the hard currency of gold or silver or whatever preparations are necessary to meet the economic depression and recession in this country's future.